Hello and welcome to this NewsMobile special. We have a special guest in our studios today, Ray Newal, who's, I would say, a technology veteran and now runs TechStars. He's also a venture capitalist, has been a founder. Ray, welcome to NewsMobile.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you. So tell me about your new venture first, and then let's quiz you on way forward as a founder, investor, and someone who can advise a lot of startups today who are watching us.
Hi, my name is Ray Newal. I'm Managing Director of TechStars India, and we are setting up the first TechStars accelerator here in India. TechStars has been in the accelerator business for about 12 years. We funded about 1,400 companies that have come through the program.
Oh, that's a large number.
It's a lot of companies.
And I gather it's what, a Canada-based venture?
No, TechStars was based in Boulder, Colorado.
Okay,
that's where we set up the first
Okay,
accelerator,
right.
And it's expanded from there.
Okay.
But some of the companies, we've out of the 1,400 companies, we've had 152 exits. The companies are worth, a market cap of the companies that are still in there is $65 billion. We were one of the first investors in Uber. We've had companies like PillPack, ClassPass, DigitalOcean, SendGrid, Sphero. All of these companies have come through TechStars, and many are very valuable. Most important stat is out of the 1,400 companies, 90% are still in business today if they haven't exited.
Great. So you've been a good omen as well for those companies, yeah. But tell me, what does it take to build a successful company? You built a company yourself, and I know a lot of young startups who are watching us today. What are the quick 5 things do you think are required for a founder to do to build a successful company?
Well, it starts with really identifying a great problem. It starts with that, and I believe once you have the problem, it's really an empathy for the customer, the person who has the pain, who has the problem. I think with those 2 things, you can begin to build from that. There are many other components, including great mentors, access to capital, access to resources. One of the hardest things about building a company is actually staying in the game long enough to succeed. So building a company is tough. When you're building a business, you will reach many moments in that business's life cycle where there's no good reason to continue on. You reach the end, and I always say there's something special and illogical about entrepreneurs, because there's something that keeps them going. And it's most important out of everything is you need that thing that's going to keep you going.
Yeah, and I see a great deal of passion in you, and I'm sure that passion is required in every entrepreneur to keep them going as well.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about futuristic technology. Where do you see the future of technologies like artificial intelligence now, which is being talked about in a big manner in India and also rest of the world, but still I don't see too much of progress happening. Where do you see AI going from here on?
AI has been in the works for many years, and I think there's a lot of misnomers when we talk about AI. I think AI is often confused with what we call general AI, which is the artificial intelligence that is going to be as smart as or as capable as a human being. We're not there yet, and I think we're pretty far from getting there. Where we are right now is pretty good at building neural networks that are able to automate very narrow slivers of functions, and that's largely. It's not so much an innovation in the algorithms necessarily, as much as finding really high quality data sets to populate these algorithms with information that allow them to make predictions, right? That is the state of AI that we're in right now. I'm excited about our potential in the emerging markets, because I think that we are going to reach a certain plateau in terms of what we can do with AI in the short term. And it's going to come down to distribution models, go-to-market models, pricing models. It's going to come down to those efficiencies that are really going to allow us to uncover the capabilities of AI in its current form. So I'm bullish about AI. I'm bullish about a lot of the enabling technologies that we talk about a lot: AR, VR, IoT. Blockchain comes up a lot. But these are enabling technologies. I think the more important thing to focus on is, what are the problems we're going to solve? Once we have really identified the problems we want to solve, then we can look to these enabling technologies to provide the solutions in much better ways than we currently have.
As a venture capitalist, especially advising startups which are going to raise some capital, what are the 3 points you advise that they should bear in mind when they're going to pitch to a venture capitalist or an investor?
Well, the first thing I actually start with is, are you sure you want to raise venture capital? I think in a lot of cases, I feel like where the startup ecosystem has really evolved, a lot of people have lost sight of solving problems, and the goal is raising money. And venture capital isn't free money. It comes at a cost, and it comes with certain expectations. And I think a lot of founders who raised the first round quickly realized that it wasn't just a gift. So that's the first thing.
There's no free lunches.
There's no free lunches.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for entrepreneurs to know that not every entrepreneur needs to raise venture capital. Venture capital isn't necessary for every business. And I think once you decide that venture capital is right for your business, right, then you have to do some homework, right? And a lot of it starts with, can you tell the right story? Can you communicate your ideas? If you can't communicate your ideas, then how is anyone going to invest in it? And I see that problem a lot at the stage of startups that we work with, right? And then beyond communicating your idea, have you validated your idea? Do you, as the farther you can go towards talking to your customers and really, taking away the risk that the solution you're providing is not wanted, that's critical, right? And then the last thing is, you want the money. How is it going to change your business? What is the round that you're trying to raise going to do to help your business progress, right? So I think those are really 3 important things that if an entrepreneur thinks through those things, I think they're going to be prepared for the meeting with the venture capitalist.
Do you get a sense that India has the right climate for startups to boom? And do you think that the venture capitalist community and the investors are now bullish again on India, because they seemed a bit lull a couple of years ago, and now things seem to have picked up?
I think there's lots of challenges to building venture capital businesses in India. I mean, venture capital as an asset class is built around billion-dollar outcomes, and one of the challenges we have in India is it's not a homogeneous market. There are many market segments in India, and right now I think we've really, efficiently captured the top of the market, the 100 million people or so that use smartphones, that are highly connected, that are willing to transact. The problem that we have, and where a lot of the valuations that were initially created haven't necessarily proven true, is it's really tough to crack the rest of the population. And my personal belief is that if we don't start thinking about the rest of the population as the markets they are, which have very different problems than the 100 million people we do properly serve, if we don't have that empathy for those people, we're not going to be able to really understand what their pains are, what their problems are, and how to make them transact. So I think once we start to do that, and that's hard to do in a country like India, then I think we're going to be able to unlock the value that India holds.
You've been someone who has also specialized in content. Where do you see the future of mobile content? NewsMobile deals with mobile content, and I know, let's hear from an expert. Where do you see the future? Where do you think it's headed?
Well, mobile content, one of the biggest challenges we have with news content right now is an inability to figure out what's real and what's fake, right? We've talked about
and we bust that. We have a fact-checking service now for the last 1 year. We've been trying to do it in our own modest way. NewsMobile Fact Checker.
And that's a major problem because now it's really easy to spread the word. It's really easy to get content around, and even the 200 million people who are outside of the top 100, they consume content using their mobile phones. So that's not the problem. The problem is how people have lost the ability to be able to properly qualify that content. And that's what we are going to need to figure out. Right? So I think we're on the other side of this problem now. Access used to be the issue. How do we access a wide population? And there's still a lot of room for growth in India on access. But beyond access, it's, how do we, ensure that content is engaging people in a responsible manner? Right. And I think that's something that we're working on, and I think it's going to be a combination of great journalism, great editorial, and AI and other types of tools that are going to create that answer.
Good to hear. You were in Canada for a long time, and
I was.
So Canada is offering a new startup environment. They just started a startup visa. How do you see the Canadian ecosystem evolving now? And do you see a lot of promise there? And do you see some cooperation that you can help between India and Canada on the startup space, on these Indian startups going to Canada and vice versa?
Well, Canada is thriving. It's thanks to our neighbor to the south. All of a sudden, it's Canada's moment in the world, and I feel like it's like any startup story. It's been years in the making. It hasn't just happened. Canada hasn't just become a great country. It's always been a great country. It's got open borders. I mean, the reason that I'm here right now is because my parents and my ancestors left India 150 years ago, went to Guyana, which was a really poor country, and ended up going to Canada, which is how I had my opportunity. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are recognizing that same opportunity in Canada. I was doing what I do here over there prior, and I had many entrepreneurs from India apply for the Canadian startup visa. I think that has become a really important asset to a lot of entrepreneurs. If you're building a company that's meant to service a global market, that's meant to go after North American customers, I think it could make sense to be in Canada. That said, not every Indian business needs to be in Canada to do well. And so, I think there's great opportunity here. I think there's a thriving ecosystem here. And I want to make the case that we can build great companies here in India.
Well, that's great. As a founder, tell me, since a lot of startups will be watching this, what is a mistake a startup founder shouldn't make? What are the 3 things you think should not be made by a startup founder?
So being a startup founder, there's many mistakes that you can make. I think the biggest one is not valuing the most important resource you have, the one unreplenishable resource, which is time, right? I think time is one of those things that you need to do as much as you can with, because it runs out. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs that basically are kind of spinning their wheels, and they're not quick enough to validate what they're working on. They're not quick enough to try and build a way of testing their market. I think that is critical as an entrepreneur. We see a lot of entrepreneurs that are mistaking building a business for a job. It's very different. It's I think not understanding what it takes to build a startup and not preparing yourself for a 10-year journey, right? When you build a company, at least, I think you're setting yourself up for failure in a way. And I think, as I say, like in my business, I see a lot of companies that want to raise venture capital. I think not understanding venture capital, if you want to raise venture capital, is a major mistake to make, because it's going to lead you down a path that you're not expecting.
Right. Before we sign off, just one thing about TechStars. So what are the expectations that you have when you are evaluating different proposals, meeting startups? What are the criteria that you have in mind when you get them on board?
Well, the major thing for us is at the stage that we're at is it's founder, a good idea and a great market. 60% of our decision is really built around the founder. It's what problem are you solving, most importantly, and why is that the problem you're solving? That's critical, and it's critical for you to have some connection to what you're doing, because otherwise, why would you keep doing it? When the going gets tough. I think when we look at founders, it's also about have you done anything difficult in your life? Have you actually really struggled through anything? And another big one is how aware is this founder of what they don't know? I think that there's a lot of feeling that founders need to have all the answers, and they don't. I actually look for founders that know that they can't. They know what they don't know. They know where they have issues, and that's important.
Great. Thank you for talking to NewsMobile. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you. Good to be here.